Hi, I'm Jessica Ardeal with Lynn Misch. Welcome to Own Your Healthcare. We are joining together here a high vibe tribe of conscious individuals like yourself that are looking how to reference and resource your body, mind, zone intelligence to integrate into happy, healthier, more connected, conscious living. Thank you for being here. Hi, Lynn.
Jess, how are you today? Are you in high energy spirits, or where are you in the world of all of this?
I am, I took my adrenal supplements this morning and amped up on those. So I am actually feeling energized and excited to connect with you today, excited to check in and gear up for our Own Your Healthcare Masterclass, which hopefully you will be joining us for, and going over the topics that matter most to you. You'll see a survey coming out with, hopefully you'll have a second to share your feedback, and we'll be able to fine tune and tailor things for you too, just generally speaking. But again, this isn't to replace your current medical provider or any diagnostic procedures. We are here as our contribution to making this world a better place with what we have. And Lynn, the gifts and talents and skill and work and schooling that you put in and the teaching that you're doing now to pass that on, thank you so much for all that you do. And is there anything at the top of your mind that you want to get into today together?
I was just thinking that, and thank you for the acknowledgement. I think the other thing I think that we need to acknowledge is your skills and expertise, because you've got a whole. Not only do you have a whole basis of skills and or toolbox of skills and expertise, because you do all kinds of wonderful things with people, and you tap into a more intuitive realm a lot of times with folks that I think gets put on the back burner or isn't acknowledged or is looked at as kind of woo woo kind of stuff. And I think that the blend of this is important, because I think we're going to offer a lot of opportunities to explore different realms scientifically, and in those realms of intuition. I think listening to yourself, listening to your own intuition as a guide, because oftentimes with the world around us as busy as it is, I think that we don't listen to that little voice inside that's trying to tell us, to go left. It was interesting because I looked at a children's book. I picked one up for one of my family members over Christmas, and it was an interesting book about go left, and this young. It's a wonderful book. I'd love to get more of them. It was about this little guy that kept going left, and when he go to do something, he like diving off the diving board, and he didn't want to do it because he was going to go splat. And
I still
so
refuse to dive. You cannot get me. I tried. I tried for years as a kid. Just it's not going to happen. I will dive in feet first. Thank you. So I relate. I need a copy too.
it's just a lovely book, and it was talking about all his self-doubt and all the bag that he carried around with all these little critters that were talking to him all the time about his self-doubt, and how there was always he was supposed to go in the right direction, and sometimes the right direction was going left. And so that I thought was really interesting. Oh, I got some background noise with one of my little cheerleaders, my very golden retriever that guards the premises. I don't know why he's barking.
Is that Sunny or Ollie? I don't hear him.
Ollie's the big. Oh, that's good. He's the guard. He's yeah, he's the big brave watchdog. Anyway, but this book is just delightful, and how his bag of self doubt got smaller and smaller as he continued on his journey with different things that he was doing. I was really, and I don't know if I captured all of it, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I think it's just going on. But it's just I picked it up, and I love this little book. Anyway, it's a great book, and it is. I think it's a book for everybody, actually. And I think that's the wonderful thing about children's books sometimes, is that they do apply to everybody in a very not maybe so complicated, but there's a lot of underlying messages that are meant for anyone that picks it up. And hopefully in this class, maybe we'll have some of those simple but underlying messages that others can relate to, when we're participating together.
Absolutely. That reminds me, I need to mention one of my favorite children's book was called Spectacles. And as you know, we've had the opportunity to meet with and work with Dr. Harry Sirota, who was a prominent optometrist out of Chicago. And this book, I found it, I lost it. And recently, probably recently, it's been a few years. Time is flying by. I can't keep track. My point is, I found a hard copy of the book. And the author had a really interesting journey, Spectacles, Ellen Raskin. It's about a little girl who sees everything differently. And so it's got the picture of how she is seeing like a giant bulldog, but it's like a couch with a little puppy on it. Or it's just so cute. I want to go grab it now. I'll have to bring it in next time and do a little show and tell if we can do that. And that book is just still delights me. So books, learning and education and entertainment, that's what we're here to do. Combine the two and interactively as possible in the Own Your Healthcare Masterclass for and with you. And again, there's nothing that you have to do, right? Sometimes it's just thinking about things differently, having a different mindset, and even going from a medical perspective to a more integrative approach is all about a different mindset too. Just being open to thinking of your body differently other than scientifically. We need the science, and then like anything, there's a science and an art to it, right? So there's an art to healthcare that gives you some co-creative influence, and why not get excited about that? Like, healthcare is a heavy topic. There's a lot of people going bankrupt, suffering, not getting the treatment they need. Like, we have a plethora of problems to address here, but what we can do right now in the present moment is connect with you one-on-one right now in this moment and let you know that we care about you. We care so much that we want to share what we know. And so, Lynn, I want to pass the mic to you again and see what your thoughts are, where you want to go.
Well, I think that's right there. You just captured so much of what's important, because I think it really is about caring. It's about caring. Not only we're gonna be supportive in this community that is being created, and I think that's really important, is creating a community. And the other piece is that no matter where you are in the spectrum of your lifespan. And I've worked with people at all different levels, and the tenacity of the human spirit is quite amazing. But the other thing is that to know that there is quality of life no matter where you are in your life. And I think that that's really important, and to have fun with that. And I think, I look at it and I think sometimes I'm so serious that I forget about, it's fun to have fun. It's fun to be, listen to stuff that's funny, and to listen to, and to get a good laugh, right? I mean,
Right? I'm watching the stand up. You're like, yep, the comedy, it all the way. When we get time to sit down and watch anything, just as a break to laugh.
yeah. And my son will give me a hard time. Yeah. Go ahead, Jess.
Nope, go.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'll call him and I'll be serious about something. I'll say, Mom, what are you watching? And I'll say, change the channel. Change the channel. And so it's like,
And
you
so
got to
we
learn.
can change the channel in our minds too, right? When I
Yeah.
talk about the organs and systems of the body, I understand now in retrospect how people would give me a bit of a side eye. But because of the way that I was introduced with Touch for Health and organ muscle systems and different consciousness techniques, that's just been a way for life for me. And so integrating all of these pieces and starting to care more about those internal systems for you too is just a mindset shift away.
Well, and I think it's body shift away. I think that when you look at things like epigenetics, and you look at things that they look at cells, right? And cells, our community and cells, I think that they respond to, happiness and joy, which sounds funny, but I think that you have to have some sense of well-being in your system in order for it to integrate and become a whole synchronous event, right? Because everything has to be in synchrony. It's like your heart has to be in synchrony, your brain, they have to work together. The systems have to work together. And I think that in that element of finding that there is happiness and joy in your world, rather than there's a lot of studies around depression and how that influences the body. And stress and how that influences the body and creates disease, right? You were talking about your adrenal complexes, that you're up and going. And I think it's interesting because when we start to recognize just the relationship with stress alone and how that impacts our body and what it does to us. There's a lot of topics that we're going to cover, I think, that are really interesting. And how do we unplug? How do we unplug from those systems and, relieve that stress that sometimes is, we're imagining the dragon that's chasing us or the dinosaur that whatever it is, the tiger, and there aren't any.
I
We
noticed that about myself recently, that I get anxiety before it happens if I just walk through it, right? This reminds me actually, Lynn, the time you invited me to speak to your students, I think at St. Luke's. This is back in the day, maybe '08 or '09, who knows? And I wanted to and I agreed to, and with my own whatever you want to call it, right? I remember going there and I had the red and white balloons for the
Yep.
red and white blood cells, and all I could do was drop off the balloons and leave. There was no way I would. I hope I dropped off the balloons.
You did. You did.
He's just like, well,
You dropped off the truck, basically. All the props. You gave me all the props. Yeah.
and that's it for me. So for me, like just going into a room and speaking in front of people, like a lot of people, but this is the format that I can do it in, right? I am in the comfort of my own home right now. So you need to make things work how they work for you. And it's not about what works and what we're telling you to make work for you. Like this is really about being in your ownership and your empowerment of what works for you and make it work for you. And I'm sorry I missed that opportunity to connect with people in real life. And that's another topic that we don't have to get into. But again, I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate connecting and sharing with people. And this is the way that works for me to do it.
And a lot of times I think that's what we have to find. I think that's the important part about it is that, and like back to the original part of this conversation that started was that we create the monsters, right? It's like the monster under the bed or the monster at the end of the book, right? So you create the monsters, and oftentimes those monsters are never there. It's what we do to ourselves, it's what our thoughts do, and our brains work in certain ways, and a lot of times our brains are designed to protect us, and in that protection it creates a lot of havoc. I was doing a company presentation a while back, and I did a YouTube video. I presented a YouTube video on a gamer, and she was talking about, and I don't know if I talked about one of the discussions, but how her brain, because she had a concussion, traumatic brain injury, and she was developing games. And they essentially told her, medical team told her that she couldn't do anything anymore. She couldn't run, she had to be very careful because she was having these horrendous headaches. And essentially, it stopped all of the things that she enjoyed most in her life, which happens a lot of times. I think this is really important because it happens a lot of times when we develop a catastrophic disease process. And so, everybody will swoop in and say, oh, you got to stop this and stop that. And this is basically what she did. And she said all of a sudden her brain is telling her that she shouldn't be alive anymore. And that really freaked her out. And so what she did is she called her sister, and her sister became one of her teammates, and she developed a video game basically on the concussion team, the way to beat concussions. And her fiance at the time also became I'm sure she's married to him now, also became a team member. And what she was doing was developing a whole strategy that when she needed help, instead of succumbing to the I'm not doing anything, she would push past and like go for a walk around the block, maybe just once, or maybe down the driveway, or whatever it was, to overcome the whole process of what she had been told that she couldn't. And it enhanced her quality of life. And I think that's the piece that's important. And it's a lot of the topics that I think we'll cover. And it's about making choices, and I think that it's understanding how the body works and how how we may think, that certainly influences a lot of our behaviors and what we do. It's like the terror of public speaking. It's just like, this is a very comfortable platform, but when you get up in front of people and you think, oh my goodness, but there's little tricks and tips that you can do that can get you into that public speaking platform. That's like the 6 minute elevator speech, which is what we should probably keep this at right now. But anyway, to really talk about where you are, what you're doing, and what your platform is, right?
And that
So,
story you just shared, Lynn, I keep hearing this resounding, like that story to me illustrates how somebody just saved their own lives, right? Like with that spark of reaching out and that connection with others, like thank God, thank God. And so we want to offer that connection. Reach out to your loved ones, to your friends, to your family, to your coworkers, to strangers, like start to put yourself in a place where you can receive that recognition from others that you matter just as much, right? Like we're all in this together. And I just really appreciate hearing that story, because we can all go to dark places like that, right? Especially in the face of a scary diagnosis or a possible health concern. Like we don't know what's going on. Nobody can find out what's going on with us, what's going to happen. We don't know, right? So all that uncertainty, sometimes that connection and just being seen can really make a difference in someone's day. So I appreciate you sharing that story.
yeah, and sharing that with others. I think sometimes the other thing that I find is that vulnerability. It's really when you can understand that vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a strength. And so when you're probably the most vulnerable, that is a time to really recognize that you're really probably at one of the strongest points in your life if you can share it with somebody else, which is interesting because you'll find somebody that'll relate to you in those and they will relate to you in those moments. So it's fascinating. I used to take somebody who had cardiac surgery, and I'd take them into a room, especially if somebody was really terrified of the procedure, and take them into the room and have the discussion that they made it through the surgery, that they were doing okay, and that just that connection that these human beings made with each other, one before, one going into, or one after, one going into, was interesting because they bonded that way. Or like when I worked with patients in cardiac rehab and they became a team, they'd look out for each other. If somebody didn't show up, they were looking out to figure out why, so it's interesting how that community, that relationship with a common bond becomes a strength. When you're able to share that bit of vulnerability, that can become a strength when you connect and you build that connection to somebody else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. Big love on that. And join us for the Own Your Healthcare Masterclass. We'll connect there. Yeah. Anything else you want to mention before I say bye for now?
no, I think we're good for now. I
Yeah.
think that I think that's enough for the stories for today. And
That's enough for you today. I said
that's enough.
no, I'm kidding.
The story, and that's good. I think the stories will continue. We got a lot of stories in the big city, let me tell you. So yes, I'm sitting in the mountains, but anyway, the stories will continue, and it'll be fun to share the stories and share the stories with each other, because we all have.
Speaking of the mountains and what have you, I feel like I do. Excuse me, needs to give credit and a shout out to my mother. The reason I took my adrenal support this morning is because she braved sub-zero temperatures to bring it over to me because I had run out. So thank you for that, Mom, if you're watching. And also Lynn, I know you are a matriarch figure to your family, and it takes a lot for you to run the ship that you do, and still you find time to take care of you too. And so that's what this is all about. How can we create more time for ourselves to take time to take care of ourselves with the best options and resources that we have, and lots of love to everyone. We'll see you soon. Yeah.
Lots of love. And I want to hats off to your mom because she was one of my best teachers. So she gave me a lot to be where I am today. So I've got to thank her as well. She didn't drop any adrenal blame. stuff to me, but yeah, exactly.
It's my heart.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, all right, we're off and about.
Ciao.
Ciao.